Good afternoon, everyone. It is time for another episode of Get to Know Them. So excited to have you here. For those of you who have not tuned into the show before, this is a show that I created. I am your host, Monica Graves, and I created this show to introduce to you some of the most inspiring people that I know and to give them a platform where they can come and share their story and in turn inspire you, the viewer, the amazing viewer. We're so grateful for you. So it's just a lot of fun, and I broadcast from my studio. I'm actually a jewelry designer, and you're here at the Glam Jewels studio in Burlington, Ontario. And that's where I broadcast from. So our guest today is Kim MacDonald from the Weather Network. I'm so excited to have her on. I'm going to read you her bio in just a second. But before I do that, I wanted to introduce you to our two sponsors. So our first sponsor is a wonderful woman by the name of Brenda Bedome, who is a very, very talented clothing designer, and she's located in Toronto, Ontario. I am wearing her top today, gorgeous bright purple. You can go to her website at brendabedome.com. Bedome is with two D's. And if you go on there and shop, you want to use the coupon code Get to Know Them for 22% off of your order. So be sure to check her out. And the second sponsor, surprise, surprise, is my business, Glam Jewels. So you can go to Glam Jewels, GLAMJULZ.com, and be sure to check out our jewelry there and grab yourself some lovely jewels to go with your Brenda Bedome outfit. So are you ready to hear all about our guest today? I am so excited. I'm just going to pull Kim's bio up right now. And this is so great. I'm really and particularly so happy to have Kim today because tomorrow is International Women's Day, and she is like the best woman to kick it off with. So let me read you all about Kim. Kim is an award-winning weather personality whose broadcast career spans 30 years. She has become one of the most familiar faces of the Weather Network, where she has built a 25-year television career. Kim can also be seen occasionally on CBC News, providing local and national forecasts. Kim is a 7-time winner of the Toronto Sun's Reader's Choice Award for Favorite Weather Personality and the proud recipient of the Paul Harris Fellow recognition due to her breast cancer advocacy. Kim was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016 and has been a national spokesperson for Breast Cancer Canada for the last 6 years. She tells her personal story and raises awareness and funding for research. She is a wife and a mother of 2 daughters and a 12-year-old dog. She resides in Hamilton, Ontario. Most recently, Kim was recognized in the House of Commons for her work with the Breast Cancer Canada in October during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Her chest tattoo has been plastered across the country, which has sparked some fabulous conversations about mastectomies, choices for women, and body. To talk about how important it is to share your story in order to help yourself and others. Kim has become a wonderful friend to me, always full of positivity and good vibes. We kind of have a sister thing, which we're going to discuss with you. And I can't wait to bring her on. Here she is. Big cheers for Kim MacDonald.
I just need one cheerleader. I just need you. That's it. I don't need anything else. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm going to take my glasses off so let's talk about the sister thing.
Okay.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Do we look like sisters? Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So let's put it in the chat. Do we look like sisters? So this is what happened, Kim. And I may have mentioned it. So for those of you who've been tuning into the show, you may have seen that Kim MacDonald had been on the show back in 2020. You were such a sweetheart. I was just starting out then. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And you were like, sure, I'll come on. And you did a beautiful episode and you shared your story about your breast cancer journey. And that was so generous of you. I was so, so happy to have you on back then, Kim. But I can't remember if we mentioned it in that interview. Long before I ever knew you or ever met you, I would be out doing my thing and people would say, "Excuse me, are you the woman from the Weather Network?" And I go, "Who? No, who are you talking?" And then
Really?
it actually wasn't until I met you at a breast cancer awareness event that I'm like, is that my sister? And I didn't say anything to you at first, but then we got chatting there. I think we met another time after, and then I told you the story. And then we were like, yeah, we are sisters. And the more that we get to know each other, I mean, so many things line up about things that we love, things we have in common. So I am honored to have you as my soul sister on this planet, woman.
Right
That's
back
what I
at you.
wanted to say.
It was Bright Run, that Bright Run event that I met you, and I was bald with a pink wig, so I can understand why you may not, say,
Yeah,
okay, I don't know if this woman really looks like me right now. No eyebrows, no eyelashes, but that's okay. And it's funny
yeah.
because there are some people, I think there were some friends through Bright Run who said that I look like you. You look like Monica Graves. So there you go.
Oh my God. Well, we're both so lucky.
I agree.
Kim, what did you want to be as a little girl growing up?
I think anything that started with a PR, like a prime minister or a princess, or anything in between. I was shooting for the moon at the age of 7 and 8. I think really it was Princess Diana who made me want to become a princess. But my parents were both teachers. So my mom was a French teacher for most of her career until she started teaching ESL. My father was a principal. And I obviously spent most of the days of my young life in school. So I thought a teacher would probably be the more, I guess, realistic job for me in the future. So yeah, that's kind of the morphing of what I wanted to do.
Wow. And when you were a kid, did you have like your dolls and your stuffed toys set up? Were you teaching in your bedroom, like
Of
teaching
course.
the class?
I was teaching my little brother, I think, mostly because he was
Oh,
3
yeah.
years younger. And if you're going to teach someone,
Yeah.
you have a captive audience in your younger sibling.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So you went through high school, and did anything change in those years, or were you still kind of, I'm going to go to teachers college and do the teacher thing? What happened in
You know
your,
what? It wasn't until I actually went to my first year of university at Brock University. My intention was to become a teacher, and I was taking music. And I thought, okay, I'll take music. Then I'll go to teachers college and I'll teach music. I wasn't even that great of a musician. I don't know what I was thinking, but I loved music, so I thought that's good enough. No, it's not
yeah.
good enough. But, my skill as a kid, I was not athletic in any way. I had no athletic ability. However, I had a really great public speaking ability, which I realized quite young, like 10 or 11 years old. I started to go into these speech arts competitions, reciting poetry and being judged for it, and I would win. And I was thinking, this is funny because I don't win at anything. Like I'm not going to be, I would be the last person picked for a team. But all of a sudden I found this thing that I could do as a nerdy little kid. And I wasn't, I mean, I was afraid. I get butterflies, but I would overcome them, and I would just stand up and do these little, either poetry or recite something from a play or something along that realm. So I would win speech contests in class, in actual school. So I realized, but it was one of those things that gradually came to me that I could actually speak in public. So when I was in university, I started, volunteering for the newspaper, interviewing people for our Brock University newspaper. And then we started a little TV show, and with local cable, Brock TV. It was the first time it was ever done. And it was the people from the newspaper, the students from the newspaper went and did a college show, university show on cable. And I realized that I could actually do that, which was a revelation for me, and something that I thought maybe this is something I could pursue.
Oh, that's amazing. And when you were doing this as a kid, and were teachers like encouraging you and giving you feedback? Were you
Yes,
getting support from
I
adults?
I had a teacher who would actually work with me on this festival. So it was called the Kiwanis Speech Arts Festival, and she was a kindergarten teacher, and I would go to her after school every day, and she would coach me. And it became a thing. And then I was volunteering in her class because I loved her so much. But we had this really great relationship because I wasn't having a great time in school with my fellow students. I would not call myself a popular kid, especially in elementary school. So I was struggling with that, the social life of it all. But I really found this little place where I knew I could do well, and that people, liked me.
Yes, I find that fascinating because you would think, like I make this assumption that it would be the popular kid who would get up and would, have this the confidence to get up and speak, like not the kid who's more introverted, not, that's not in with the in crowd or whatever. Like
Yeah,
that's just so
I
great.
was relentlessly picked on, but at home, my parents gave me a ton of confidence. So I had this really great home life where my parents would boost me up and tell me how great I was, and it was enough
Perfect.
to get me through. So even if at school things weren't going as smoothly as I would have liked,
Yeah.
I'm being nice about it, but I had my parents helping me with the confidence. So it wasn't like I was an introvert necessarily, but
Mhm. You
yeah,
just weren't you hadn't met your people yet.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
I have
Wow.
since, but not at the time, right?
Not then, right. Amazing. It's funny there they say, with all these people doing TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff, they're saying now, and not to say that you were introverted because you weren't, but a lot of the people who are reaching like all these views and everything, they're the introverts. Like they're doing things on camera. This is where they're comfortable that they wouldn't necessarily do, amongst their friends or in public or anything. So it's just so
Yeah,
interesting how, people are complicated. There's many facets to human beings. It's
I
not
worked.
what we
Yeah, I worked
think.
with a guy in radio who was so great on radio. It still is, and if I was in the room talking to him, I was working there for the summer, and if we were hanging out and talking, he would ask me to leave when he was going to do his break on the radio. So when he was going to go live, because he said he's too shy, like he doesn't want to do it in front of anybody else, and he had this really successful career, but he was not great as far as being an extrovert and showing off in front of other people. No way, he was just way too nervous. So I thought that was really funny.
Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah. So the radio thing I'm curious about as well. What what got you into radio? Was that during university or was it once?
yes, I loved
Yeah.
radio. Well, what happened was after my first year of university, I got my hair in my face. I got a summer job working for Hits FM, 97.7 Hits FM in St. Catharines. It was a rock station, and the government was sponsoring different jobs for students. And my job was to be the promotions person and to drive around a van and play music at events for free. So these people could book it, and I would go out to their events and I would put tapes in, and I'd have these big speakers and I would play them out of the back of a van. And I would drive all over Southern Ontario for this as a 20-year-old girl. Anyway, it was the most fabulous experience for me. I loved it. And it was the first time I had worked at a job that wasn't, retail or food and beverage or something along those lines. And I was thinking, okay, this is for me. This is not even like a job. I'm coming here every day and I love it. And I'm meeting great people and I'm doing fun things. And I thought maybe this is where I should be.
Great. That's amazing.
So I was in school.
Yeah.
That was just a summer job, but I went back to school. I switched my major to communications. I got my degree in communications. I went to Niagara College and did a couple of years of radio, television. I skipped the first year they just put me in. And I went back I got a job in radio at a local country station. And then a few months later, about 6 months later, I applied for the morning news and anchor and co-host for 97.7 Hits FM, which was a much bigger job than the job that I had done the summer a few years previous.
Right.
And I got hired, and I had almost no experience, very little. And I got hired to do this morning show, and it was, it was all up.
What year was that?
It was 93.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's wow.
So 93 to 98, I was doing a morning show. And I was doing 97.7 Hits FM, but I was also on the talk radio side of it. So the AM station, 610 CKTV. So I would go from one to the other. So at the top of the hour, I would be doing the news at Hits FM. At the bottom of the hour, I'd be doing the news for 610 CKTV. And in between, I would jump in and do the breaks with the host and his co-host, and we would do contests and have, hilarious whatever banter, etc. So I would just jump in, run in, laugh at all the jokes, and then run back and write my news.
Oh, fun. You must have loved that. And so I was going to ask you about your love of music as well, because you thought maybe I'll be a music teacher. So was this like in line with the music you were into, the 97.7
It
job?
was not really.
Oh.
At the time when I was really listening to alternative music at the time. I was, 24, 25 when I was at the radio station. But honestly, I'd worked at a country station and gotten really into country music because we were playing it. I was listening to it and I said, oh my gosh, I love this. And then working at the rock station, I started to love that music. I did love rock music when I was like 12 or 13. But when I was older, my tastes were changing, but I really got into that music. So yeah, I have a wide taste in music.
Oh, that's great. There's so much to discover in music. It's amazing. Yeah.
It brings us right back to our youth, doesn't it? Hearing a song.
It sure does. Yes. I think music is like the one, it's the closest we'll ever get to a time machine, I think.
Yeah.
No?
I think so too. And I love when I hear my kids listening to music that I used to listen to. They'll have it on their Spotify, and I'm like, how do you even know that song? And they say, oh, it was on TikTok. And I'm like, oh, all right. That's how you're listening to Crowded House now. On TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Sure. Yeah. So I heard something that apparently the 80s, they say the 80s had the best music, okay? Like everybody will say their generation had the best music, but the reason that they say the 80s in particular is because the kids in the 80s, so you and me, in the 80s, we were listening to 80s music. Like we were listening to Crowded House, the Eurythmics, Duran Duran, we were listening to that music. And now the kids are listening to 80s music. So that's supposed to be the proof that it was the best time, because every generation since then has always wanted to hear 80s music.
I know. Yeah. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
90s music is pretty great too.
Yeah. So good. Oh my God. I could talk to you about music for hours, but we have to talk about, so there's two big things I want to discuss in our discussions today. Now, first of all is your job and what you're doing over there at the Weather Network. We have some really good questions from some of your viewers. And then we have to get into the recent work that you did with Breast Cancer Canada and your tattoo and that whole adventure. I was telling you off screen, I read your blog and I had tears. It's just so incredible what you've done. So on to the weather, Kim.
Onto the weather.
Onto the weather. So I'll read out some questions that were asked, and you can get into it as much or as little as you want to. We may not have all the answers, but one of your guests wanted to know what the process was of forecasting the weather and what technology you use in your work. How does your work contribute to public safety, and what are some of the ways that climate change has affected your work and the field of meteorology as a whole? So we don't have to go to all places, but that was like one big giant question. So yeah, I find
Excellent
this
question.
interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So, and you can tell that people who watch the Weather Network or who are into weather, they're really into it. And it's one of those conversations that people can have across the country. It doesn't matter where you are. People love to talk about the weather. I just happen to do it professionally, but it's an easy conversation and everybody has an opinion. And that's basically because it's impacting everyone. Everybody's impacted by the weather. When I was starting in radio, my news director pulled me in to listen. We had to, go an air check is what they call it, to go over my newscast. I was real young. And he said, what is the most important news story of the day? And I'm like, okay, what kind of quick trick question is this? Because the news stories change every single day. And so
Yeah.
thinking I was real smart, I said, it's the story that impacts the most people. And he said, so what story is that? I'm like, well, I guess it's, it changes. And he said, it's the weather. It is the weather. The weather, when you do the weather off the top, because I'd say sunny today with a high of 24. Right now it's 14. And here's the news kind of thing. He said,
Yeah.
don't just glaze over that. Don't read it so quickly because people care about that. That impacts their life. So you need to go slow. You need to say it clearly. Don't rush through it. It's important. So I was like, oh, the most important news story of the day is weather. And it's funny because I wanted to be in news. That's what I was doing. I thought that news would be my path, but it changed, of course. So to answer the question, the good thing about weather is that technology is constantly improving. The tools we have today in 2023, that seems weird to say,
Yeah.
is different than the tools we had and the technology we had in, when did I start? 1998, 25 years ago.
God.
So,
Mhm.
and that means the forecasts are more accurate. So the more accurate and better the technology, the better the forecast. So we go with weather models, and there's different ones like the Euro, the GFE. They have all these little names. One's from the United States, one's from Canada, one's from Europe. Those are the main three. And the models will spit out data like, okay, they anticipate these temperatures or this amount of snow in this storm that's on the way. So these three models might all have different ideas. One says it's going to go northern Ontario. One says it's going in southern Ontario. Another one says the track will be straight through the middle. This might be a week out. The closer we get to the day of the storm, the models start to come into agreement. So they start to become more and more alike. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but often it does. And the forecaster's job is to pick the model that they think is the most accurate with this storm, taking into account things like topography. Is it the escarpment in Ontario, right? Is it near the Great Lakes? Will an east wind might mean nothing if you live in Timmins, but if you live in Hamilton, an east wind might mean 90 centimeters of snow. I'm exaggerating, but it means that we could have lake effect snow. So there's all these little things that a forecaster will already know. They'll think about history. The last time this happened, we saw ice pellets or we saw freezing rain. So those are the kinds of things that go into it. We have the technology, the data, these models, and then the forecasters who have experience. And that's kind of how a forecast is made. Climate change has had an impact. I see more and more extreme weather. I know this has to do with two things, of course, is that everybody has a phone. And so we see weather more often. So a tornado that may have happened in the past, nobody may have seen it, that kind of thing. Or now people are like, well, I saw this, I recorded this, I saw this sundog, I saw this meteor because I have a dash cam, And so we're so connected now too that we're very aware of weather, but also we can see the extremes. What's happening in California? My gosh,
Yeah.
we're talking about meters of snow. We're talking about rainstorms in a place that doesn't get any rain normally. Day after day, we're talking about fires in Australia. We're talking about all kinds of things. So definitely climate change has impacted how weather is presented, and things that I have seen over the years have certainly changed as well. But also we're so connected through social media and our cameras that we are more aware of what is happening globally as well.
Okay. That must be quite heavy to watch and to see, like, especially for you because you're so in it, like over these past 25 years, to actually see how things have changed with climate, like,
It is.
yeah, it's,
And you can tell, and it's interesting because I got into weather too because I didn't like the terrible trauma of real news, the the murders, the
yes.
the things that I was talking about when I was doing radio news sometimes would break my heart, and I would have such a difficult time trying to tell the story. So I'm thinking, do I want a lifetime of this? Do I want to be a reporter knocking on somebody's door to tell or to ask them a question about their son being killed in a car accident? Do I? I don't think I do. So I thought weather is a great way to go because weather, I can give somebody important information that impacts their lives, and I might be able to save a life with a warning or letting people know about severe weather. Who knows, right? I know it's important, but I'm not talking about the death and devastation. And yet now here I am talking about death and devastation because of the extreme weather that we're seeing around the world. And more, Monica, and I think you've probably seen this as well, is that weather is a headline on news stations that aren't the Weather Network. And when they are leading with weather, climate, fires, extreme heat, etc., that's a shift. That's a shift where weather used to be put on as the least important thing. Maybe we're not even going to get to the weather today because we have a top story. Now weather is more and more the top story.
Yeah, so true. My God. Yeah. So that, yeah, I think about you sometimes. I think, God, it must be hard to decompress some nights after reporting on all of that stuff because, it's happening.
Yeah.
So we have to, yeah, yes, there's some
It
good,
is happening. And there's I think there is a lot we can do here in Canada. I'm hoping that we're making the right strides. The other thing is that if it's happening, we need to be prepared structurally, etc. Like people actually need to be prepared, and the way they build houses now, where we build houses. Don't build a house on the side of a river because that river may flood, and you have to walk away from that home, and you won't be able to sell that home because nobody will want to buy it. So then what do you do, right? These kinds of things. So we have to be ready, and we have to do what we can for the planet.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I love about the generation now, the Gen Z kids? They're all into like Value Village and recycle and
Sure.
it's so great. Yeah,
It's cool
all
now,
these little,
Monica.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
love those places too. Like, I'm sure your mom dragged you to those places when you were, or not dragged you, but I loved going shopping to like it was called the IODE when I was a kid, a little place. It was all used clothing and I'd get beautiful things, It's
Yeah.
nothing
My
wrong with
daughter
that.
worked at a store like that at Plato's Closet, and it's so
Yeah,
popular, and all the young kids go there, and it's a cool place to work, and it's a cool place to shop, and everything is secondhand. So I
yeah.
love
Again, vintage 80s shoulder pads. Okay, let's
that.
not go there.
Big hair, big shoulders.
Exactly.
Hey, we didn't have flat irons. Come on. It wasn't
No,
our
we
fault.
did not. No, I keep thinking I need more proof. I kind of want to go back to more 80s things. Yes.
That does not surprise me.
So Kim, another question that's kind of in line with this is somebody had asked what percentage of your forecast is actually correct?
Yeah, and that's a good question. But what do you mean by correct, right? So if we call for 20 centimeters and you get 23 centimeters, were we wrong?
Ah,
You know what I mean?
right.
Or are you looking at a forecast 5 days out and expecting that to be the same as the day of? You have to keep checking back because people have to remember two things, that the atmosphere is a changing, moving thing. So I put forecasting weather the same as trying to pick a winner in a horse race. So the horses are lined up, you have all the stats. This is the horse that has won the last 20 races. This is the horse that, the bet's 2-1 that's going to win. So you're looking at this horse, you're like, what could go wrong? Well, sometimes something can go wrong. The horse trips, something spooks the horse, right? So it looks like there's a 90% chance that this horse is going to win the race, but something happens, a variable. that will change the outcome of the race. With forecasting, the closer you are to the date, obviously, the higher the percentage of it being correct, like the day before. But there's so many variables. Is the temperature +1 or is it -1? And you know that 2 degrees means the difference between snow and rain, or freezing rain and ice pellets. And so you can say there's a storm coming, pay attention to it. What's your pop? You know, what day is it coming? And be prepared for it and check. And I feel like the more people actually know and understand about weather, the more they will be able to figure things out. Okay, can you read a radar? Do you know when the rain is moving in? At what time? Can you look at a radar and say, okay, I shouldn't be going for my walk now, but I should be okay in about 20 minutes. You know, we have all these tools, and people might look at an app and say, oh, I see a thunderstorm icon. Must be a thunderstorm today. There's one in every hour. What's the pop? Is it 40%? Is it a 40% pop? Because we've got a soupy air mass, which means you could have a pop-up thunderstorm at any time. It could happen in Burlington. It could happen in Dunnville. And the people in Burlington won't see it because it happened over. So it's like, we like to compare it to putting kernels of corn in a pot. We know they're going to pop. Which one's going? Which one's going first? Which one's not going to pop? Right? So there's all these things to think about when it comes to the atmosphere and forecasting. And I'm always so impressed with our forecasters at the Weather Network for nailing stuff as often as they do. And sometimes days out, and you don't even see the storm hasn't even developed. It's not even on the satellite. Like, you can't even see it yet, but you know it's going to be there. And if you can get a temperature, 3 or 4 days out, nail it. Wow, that's impressive.
That is impressive. I love that. My mom and I laugh sometimes because I'm in North Burlington, she's in South Oakville, and we'll be talking about the weather, and it's like 2 different weather systems. Like you said, it is like the popcorn. It's like we're a 10-minute drive, but completely different things are happening.
That's right. And you're a forecaster, and you're supposed to be forecasting the entire, say we have 2, one for the east and one for the west. This is not, we're not talking about the local forecaster for the Toronto News. We're talking about an entire country. And we look at EC's radars and things, but we're not taking Environment Canada's forecast. They have their own meteorologists, and so do we. And so, to pinpoint the difference between the north and the south of one city is pretty incredible if you can do it,
God, that's so neat. I have one question, my own question. It's my own question. In other words, so explain hail balls in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hail is a summer precipitation. It's different from ice pellets in the winter. They look very much the same, but hail is definitely a summer precipitation type. So it's little particles, little bits of moisture being sent up into the atmosphere and continuing to go up into the cloud over and over again. And as they hit this higher elevation, they are accreting ice. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger ice pellet, so to speak. And it's because it's moisture. There's a lot of moisture in the summer, moisture moving up into the atmosphere, hitting this cold air because it's warm air at the surface, cold air above in this cloud, cycling over and over again, and then falling as a piece of ice. When it gets too big, when it gets too heavy to circulate one more time, it comes down and it falls as hail. So it's definitely a summer convective precipitation type, if that makes sense. All weather really is warm air rising and hitting cold air. So the clashing of those 2 things creates rain, snow, thunderstorms, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, I love that. Excellent. Good answer. Good. So, Kim, my mom's actually chimed in. She wants to know, why is snow measured in centimeters and rain in millimeters?
Oh, I guess because snow is not really liquid.
Okay.
By the time it becomes snow, it's more of a solid than a liquid, and rain is definitely a liquid. So you have to measure liquid as a millimeter, a liquid form, and snow as a centimeter, because it's not liquid anymore. It's frozen.
Okay.
It's frozen liquid.
That's so great. All right. So let me see. Did you always want to be a meteorologist, TV personality? I think we answered that question by your history. And this is a really great question. One of your viewers asked, who has had the biggest positive effect on your career? I love that question.
Biggest positive effect. Okay, so probably my parents, which is interesting. Okay, so my parents for always instilling in me the confidence that I told you about when I was just this little nerdy kid who was getting picked on. They made me feel like I was a queen. So I had this false sense of confidence when I was a young person, and they were always extremely proud of me and supportive of everything I did. So they had a huge impact on me doing what I wanted to do and going into the career that I wanted to, and were always my big cheerleaders. Both my parents were. My husband, who works in television, I met him in television. He has always been a huge support for me. And I would say the people who initially hired me for radio when I had no experience, for giving me that chance, for calling me a diamond in the rough. That was the quote that I heard. And then again, for the people who hired me at the Weather Network with no real television experience other than the cable TV I was doing. So I looked to people on TV, yes, certainly, but it was the people, the people who gave me a chance and the people who supported me all the way through, who are closest to me. That was my biggest influence.
Beautiful. Love it. So moving on now to Breast Cancer Canada. This is such a great story. So once again, I just want to say, for anybody who wants to hear the full story about Kim and her whole journey with her breast cancer diagnosis, please go back and listen to our interview together from 2020, because you shared your story so beautifully. And at the time you were working with, so Breast Cancer Canada, they were the Breast Cancer Society of Canada, right?
Yes, and they rebranded.
So they just rebranded
last year.
Yeah.
2022. Yeah.
Okay. And so in May of 2022, you celebrated 5 years of being cancer free. And
right.
So all of this did it all line up together, Kim, with this rebranding?
And the rebranding and all that stuff?
Yeah.
It kind of lined up together. So
okay.
I had wanted a tattoo for a long time, and I wasn't going to have reconstructive surgery. I'd made that call a long time ago. Obviously, when I was going to have a mastectomy, I decided that I didn't want to have reconstruction. My surgeon, not my surgeon, but my oncologist had said to me, oh, if you're going to get reconstruction, wait 3 years. Like, wait 3 years? And I said, why? And he said, well, you had a very aggressive breast cancer. And if it returns, it might not be as easy to find if you have implants. And I said, okay, well, why don't we not do that then? Why don't we just not? So I made the decision then. One of those, I just want to be safe. I just want to be healthy. I just want to give myself the best chance that I can. And having reconstruction, although it seemed like my first choice, it quickly changed to not doing it at all. So my friend had said, why don't you get a tattoo on your mastectomy scars? At some point, she said, there's women who do this. It looks beautiful. And when you're looking in the mirror, you will see something gorgeous, some art, rather than just your scars. And I went, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I started to Google it, and I saw a few photos. They were absolutely beautiful. I said, yes, this is the thing. But I have to tell you, there weren't a lot of photos out there. Obviously, this is a very personal thing, and perhaps these women, there were women who wanted to share, but I was sure there was others out there who just, didn't post their tattoos, very personal to them. So I thought about this for years, but I had radiation. My skin was, weakened from the radiation. I had scars, which were still painful. And I kept putting it off because I wanted to heal more. And then in May, I decided that this was the time. It's been 5 years since I had my mastectomy, and I want to do this. And so I contacted a tattoo artist in Burlington.
Yeah.
Shout out to Julia Bell at Atomic Cherry, and she did this beautiful sunflower tattoo, and I kept it a secret. I didn't tell even my husband that I was doing it. he knew for years that I said I was going to do something like this, but I didn't say anything. So I went, got my tattoo, came home, told him I got it, showed him. He's like, is that even real? And I'm like, yeah, yes, it's totally real. So, then I kept it kind of quiet. I shared it with a couple of friends. I did not post it on social media. And then I had lunch with a friend from Breast Cancer Canada who told me that they were doing a rebranding. Oh, no, she didn't. No, she didn't tell me that at first. She was telling me little things. I said, I've done this thing and I want people to know about it in a big way. I said, I feel like it should be shared maybe through a magazine or a website or something where women can see that this is a choice that they can have. And maybe they too don't want reconstructive surgery and they don't just want to live with their scars. And maybe this is an alternative. So I said, I really want to get the word out. And she said, I might have something for you. And so then about a month or two later, probably, not even a few weeks later, I got the call for Breast Cancer Canada, brand new name. They're doing a whole campaign and they're looking for breast cancer thrivers, women who want to, be in the campaign, whether the commercial or photos, billboards, that kind of thing. And I said, yeah. I said, this sounds like a great opportunity to showcase the tattoo.
Yeah. So the tattoo, why sunflowers?
I love
sunflowers.
First, there's so many reasons I love sunflowers. I've loved them forever. I'm a Leo, so it is my flower for August. Anyway, I love the sun and sunflowers. I kept seeing them during my treatment. I'd see a beautiful painting of a sunflower, and then I saw the saying, "Be a sunflower, stand tall, follow the sun," or "Stand strong and face the sun." What, different variations of that line. And I thought, wow, what a positive way to be. And I'd see these paintings from a local artist and they would have a sunflower with a storm. And the sunflower is like blowing in the wind. So the petals are coming this way and it's facing the sun. And as the storm clouds are behind it. And that's how I felt. I'm like, I'm going through this very, very difficult time, which is breast cancer treatment. I don't want to sugarcoat that at all. It is awful. But I felt positive. I felt I've got to stand strong, face the sun, be hopeful, look towards something positive, despite what was going on at my back. And that's how I was going to survive this. This is how I'm going to mentally survive this, is to be strong and be positive. So that's where my sunflower came from.
That's an incredible visual. Yeah, it's really amazing. And so who's the artist that actually designed the sunflowers? Did you have an artist design that for you, or did
my tattoo artist designed it? So I cannot remember the name of the artist. Arts and Collective, I believe, is Arts and Collective on Instagram. So that was my inspiration. And I sent my inspiration to Julia Bell, the tattoo artist, and I said, can you do something like this in this kind of vein, And then so she came up with her own design because she is an artist first before she's a tattoo artist. And I came in and she showed it to me. She goes, something like this. I didn't see it till I arrived. And she goes, and it was just outlined and it had two sunflowers. She goes, do you want a third one? I said, yes. And so she quickly did a third one. She's really good. And then she says, do you want this colored in? I said, yeah, of course. And then she said, okay, good. That's what I wanted for you. And so off we went.
Beautiful. Did she add pink to it as well?
No, there's no pink.
No, there's no pink. Okay, I couldn't remember if there was pink in it. So that's amazing. So now the whole tattoo process.
Yes.
Okay. I want to bring this up because you wrote about it on your blog and I love this. So here you are in this beautiful place getting your tattoo by this beautiful woman, and you describe that there's this lovely feminine energy in her place and you're feeling safe and good and all those things. Yeah. So how did it feel when the tool hit the chest?
Oh, wow. So she said, well, people describe this as a cat scratch. That's how it feels like, And
Yeah.
I said, okay, yeah, maybe if that cat is, a tiger or a lion or a cougar or something, because it was so painful. And the good news is, this is what everybody asked me, how long did it take? Like, how many sessions did you have to come back? Because it's a large tattoo. And I said, it was 3 hours. That's it. So she is so good. And I took a couple breaths, a little breather. I'm like, okay, can we, can I stand up for a second and, just take a breath? And we would do that for like a minute or two and drink some water and then get back to it, because I was like, I want it done. I don't want to wait here like longer than I have to, or endure this as long as I have to. So when I tell people about this tattoo, I say, it's the greatest thing I did for myself. I am thrilled with it. It has changed my perspective on my body in so many positive ways. However, it is extremely painful, and especially when you have scars. And so I was quite sensitive. I thought it wasn't going to be that bad. I have a small tattoo on my wrist. That was my little entryway into tattoos. I had one small W, and I was like, that was nothing. I am really good with pain. I have a great threshold. That's what I thought. I've been through cancer. I've had 2 babies. How bad can it be? No, it was hard.
Yeah. Was a different pain, another pain to discover. Yeah. So Kim, can you describe how you felt before that tattoo versus after, when you saw yourself in the mirror with your tattoo?
Yeah.
For the first time, just you and the tattoo. How did you feel?
I loved it. It's funny because I had come to terms with how my body looked. So before the tattoo, it had taken a few years to really get my head around it, because it's a drastic change to lose your breasts. It's a huge change. Like, you're losing a part of your body that you've lived with. For me, I got out a little later, since you're like 14. Anyway.
Yeah. Me too. I was the same.
It's hard. There's a grieving, because it's taking something from you, right? Something that is very personal and part of you. And so that was hard. And it was, going into the surgery, I was afraid and I was upset. Anyway, so over the years, because it's been a few years, I learned to live with this look of mine, and I was okay with it. I was okay with it. But when I got the tattoo, I'm just okay. I loved it. I loved how I looked. It gave me all this confidence. It made me feel good about myself. And for a woman in her 50s, to feel good about how her body looks, it's a big deal. And I applaud the women who are okay with how they look. So, and this was just one of those things. And I can't believe what a mental change it had on me. And and as I say, I was totally okay with, my surgeon had done a great job with my scars, and I was okay with it. I lived with it. I'm like, yep, this is how I look. This is how my chest looks. But it just added this whole other element where I'm like, wow, this is beautiful.
Incredible. And then you have this opportunity where you can show people. And so I want people to understand just how big that part of it became, because here you went from, maybe you can show it online, throw it in a magazine.
Right.
Let's tell the people exactly where this image of you, so we could describe the image and people can go to look at it, but you're wearing like a gorgeous kind of like a robe, like a very delicate robe.
Yes.
And you're fully exposed.
Fully exposed, full chest. So
Yeah.
there were photos just with me by myself, and there was photos with a real researcher from Winnipeg behind me, showing the researcher behind the patient. And this image, there was a couple images of me like this, was on a bus in Calgary, and it was in a commercial, a different image, but me completely topless in a commercial for 1 second for Breast Cancer Canada, the No More commercial. And then it was at young Dundas Square on a massive billboard for a few months. And this was not what I had expected, but here we go. So I'm like, I said I wanted people to see this, especially women who are going through breast cancer. I want them to know that this is a thing that they can choose if they so wish. And there it was.
God, I love that. How did you feel like when you were in Dundas Square and you looked, on your Instagram, you have a great picture of you beside that billboard. But like, what did that feel like to look up there? And I mean, this is groundbreaking stuff you're doing.
Yeah, yeah,
This is not, it's not every day you see a woman who, we're just starting to see that now. Like, there's been so much, hiding, shame, all these horrible things. And here you are, Dundas Square, showing,
very
it's
it
so
all.
awesome. Like, yeah, yeah. So we're like, what happened in your mind? Your heart must have been racing,
It was. It was. I was at this event
Yeah.
with some people that I had just met, and I said, I'm just going to take a little walk because we're just around the corner from this billboard that I'm on. I just want to see what it looks like in real life. And they're like, well, we're coming. And I said, okay. And so these people I just met that day came with me. So I wasn't alone just looking at this billboard, but I just happened to be in downtown Toronto. So I thought I'd take a walk over. And they were like, what is going on? Like, what is this? And it was yeah, it was super exciting to see it. And yes, my heart was going because I had done photos before with just the scars for another charity called I Rise. And we weren't doing it for publicity. We were doing it, I thought it was a personal photo. So they wanted to put this out there, like on Facebook. And I said, no, I am not. And they go, what if we don't show your face? I go, no, I do not want this out there. I'm in television. I do not want to show my body. I like this. This is not what I signed up for. So I went from that a few years ago to being on a billboard at Young Dundas Square. But and that was the difference between the tattoo and not the tattoo. So
Yes.
and the feeling that I want women to have some kind of a northern star to look towards, something that says this is possible. And if they look at that and see themselves in there in some way, or are in the middle of chemo, or are going towards a mastectomy in a week or two, and they look at this and say, all right, you know what, that's something I can do. I was always trying to look for something in the future that I could hang on to, some kind of hope. And I'm hoping that this is that for some women who are dealing with breast cancer right now.
Beautiful. Oh my God, Kim, I love you so much.
I love
It's
you
so
too.
good. Speaking of love, Nancy McMillan from the Bright Run, who you and I both love,
Yes.
is listening from the pool in Florida, and she sends tons of hearts here. So
God
your
bless
way,
Nancy. Soak up that sun. Nancy,
soaking up the sun.
amazing. Oh my
When
gosh.
is she going to fly us over there? That would be nice.
Come on down. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I just went going back to the billboard, like when I was going through your Instagram, or it came up in my feed and I saw you there, I could feel that like excitement of, that it's so interesting how life is. Like you said, you were in this place a few years ago where you didn't want anybody to see your body on, but I think it's such a good lesson to anything in life. It's like you have to wait for the right time. And there was a deeper purpose and meaning behind you showing your body. It had to be done in this new way, right? And
That's right. I had to get
God,
my head around it. And then when I was in the
yeah.
right place, exactly, that's when I was ready to show. I'd been sharing my story through my blog, of course, when I had cancer. I was happy to share details, and I was very open about, the story and what I was going through. But this was different, this was really showing something. And, but it wasn't about me,
Right.
it
Yeah.
was like, this is going to help someone, and that that makes me feel good. But I got so many messages, and that photo has been shared on different groups where women are not going to have reconstructive surgery. So there's all these Facebook groups, and they're showing this photo. So that's really exciting. But the biggest thing was I was at a big breast cancer event in San Antonio, Texas, in December, and it's the biggest breast cancer conference, I believe, in the world. People come from all over, 10,000. There are researchers and doctors and pharmaceutical companies. And I was there with Breast Cancer Canada as a patient advocate, and I saw this woman speaking on the stage. She was, she's a surgeon. She's the chief surgeon at Penn U in the United States. And she had great things to say about talking to your patients about mastectomies, and are we being open enough with them? Are we telling them the truth? Are we being honest? And I loved what she had to say. She was the first person that I heard talking about mastectomies. Most people want to talk about early detection, finding that cell, you know, really important science. But this was, you know, this was speaking to me. So when she came down from this panel and she was in the hallway by herself, I approached her and I said, hey, you know, I just want to tell you, I really loved what you had to say. I'm a patient, or was a patient. And I said, I had a double mastectomy and now I have a tattoo. And she said, oh, yes, I've been talking to my patients that, you know, about tattoos. I said, you have? And she's like, yeah, you know, I've been telling them that that's a thing. I said, oh, that's great. I said, my tattoo was plastered everywhere across the country with Breast Cancer Canada's campaign. And she said, oh my God, I know who you are. And I've seen that photo. And then I had a picture of it because it was on some of our cards that we had for, and I thought, is it this photo? And she's like, yes, I have been sharing your photo with my patients. And
Oh my God.
I was blown away. And then she said, can I take my picture with you? This woman's resume is just filled, like filled. She is an incredible surgeon, scientist. She's a professor. And I was completely fangirling over her. And then she turned the tables and her face completely changed. Like she was pretty, you know, I don't want to say serious, but, you know, a little on the serious side and kind of keeping, you know, a distance between us, which I understand.
Of course.
You know who I am. But as soon as I said that, her whole face completely changed. And it was the funniest thing. I have that post in my Instagram as well, the picture that she took of us. But it was mind-blowing to me. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this has crossed borders now. And surgeons are recommending this to their patients. And their patients are seeing this as a choice. So this was, you know, just a really emotional moment for me. And I said, this is what it's for. This is why I did this.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's amazing. Kim, you are so awesome. So, speaking of conferences and events and all that stuff, you got some things coming up, right?
Yes, I do.
You want to let people know about. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to be speaking at an event in Dufferin if you're in the Orangeville area. It is for Hospice Dufferin. They're doing an event for cancer and breast cancer. It's kind of a wellness event. So go to hospicedufferin.com and it's $25. It's more of an awareness event. And I'm talking to them and I would be happy for people to come out and say hello. I'd love to see you. So that's in Orangeville. hospicedufferin.com. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that Breast Cancer Canada has their annual Mother's Day walk. They've been doing it virtually. They have it virtually and in person this year. So go to mothersdaywalk.ca and sign up, get sponsors. You can walk, run, do yoga for a month between April 14th and May 14th, so Mother's Day, and do whatever you want. Just move. Then they just want you to move and be healthy. And they wanted to remind you that get your mammogram, because if you find breast cancer early, stage 0, stage 1, you have almost a 100% chance of survival. If it is stage 4, you have a 25% chance of survival. So that's huge, and it means don't be afraid. If you think something, you feel something, don't wait till you're 50. That is BS. There's no research to back that women have to be 50 and over to get breast cancer. I was not 50 yet, so just, get screened, please, and make that appointment. I know it's not fun. I know it hurts. I hated them. I don't have them anymore, obviously, but for the worst kind of reason. So please just do that for me. And if you take away anything from this conversation, I want that to be it. Look after yourself.
Yeah, what a good message. It's amazing. And, you know, like, speaking of all, you know, when you're talking about the stages and what early detection can do, like 100% chance of survival, this is why it's so great that we're always giving to organizations like Breast Cancer Canada, like the Bright Run, supporting the Jurvinski Cancer Center, because research has come so far now. I remember one of my best friends was diagnosed like 10 years ago, and they said to her, had you been diagnosed 2 years earlier, we wouldn't have been able to help you. So it's that fast, and people don't realize because we don't understand everything and know everything that scientists know. But what we do know and what we can believe in is that this early detection, it's the best thing. Like,
Yeah.
get your butt into the doctor's office. And the mammogram, I mean, you know, they do the clamp thing. They go, are you feeling okay? You go, yeah, this isn't too bad. And then it's one more and you go, oh yeah, this is a little uncomfortable, but whatever. It's like you're in and out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah,
know, you just want to get it caught early. That's the best possible
exactly.
scenario if you have it at all. And, you know, it's still 1 in 8 women, but you're right. Research has come so far. They have
Mhm.
new things on the horizon and new medications now. And it's because of research that I'm alive, because I'm HER2 positive and they didn't have Herceptin 20 years ago. And I wouldn't be alive. So because of Herceptin, a certain kind of drug, I am alive. Knock on wood. I'm doing well,
Yes,
doing really well. So 2016 to 2023, that's pretty good and more than I could have ever imagined. So here we go.
amazing. Oh, Kim, thank you so much for today. Are you at work now? Are you going on TV?
I'm at work. Yeah, I'm going to be putting
Yeah.
together a story tonight. Yes.
Oh, good. That's great. When's spring coming?
It's Canada,
The
Monica.
groundhog lied. The groundhog.
The groundhog always lies. He's a poor groundhog. He doesn't know. Yeah, so it's meteorological spring right now. That starts March 1st. People, I just want to explain this. People say, what is
Yeah.
that? Meteorological spring. So when it comes to statistics, it's easier when the date starts on the same date every year and ends on the same date. So March, April, May. That's it for meteorological spring. Because when we talk about astronomical spring, sometimes we say, okay, well, summer may start on June 20th, June 21st, or June 19th. You know how it goes like that? It changes. Yeah. You can't do statistics when the date moves. So that's why meteorology has different dates, and which makes sense too, right? June, July, August, that's summer. September, October, November, that's fall. But anyway, summer just shows up, or spring just shows up when it wants to in Canada. Sometimes it's for a day, sometimes it's for a week.
I know, it's so fun. Like, we always complain about the same thing, but I always laugh at how it's like cold, cold, cold. Then you get a couple days of like where I feel like I'm in a movie. Like, yeah, it's like nice, sunny. It's like that beautiful, like 17, 18 degrees. Don't need it. You can wear a light little jacket. You can look cute, whatever. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're like sweating our butts off, and
yeah,
it's tank tops, and you know.
We live in Canada and we have extremes, but we don't like any of them, right? It's like in the summer, we crank on our air conditioning. In the winter, we crank our furnace and we just hope for comfort.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Oh, well, Kim, thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. You're in the most exciting country.
That's right.
For the weather.
Never a dull moment. Monica, this has been great. I've loved our conversation, and I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate you giving me this time today.
Likewise, girl. And we'll have to have lunch together soon.
Okay.
Maybe on a patio in March. You never know.
We'll say, are you two sisters?
Yeah. Are you two sisters? Yes, we are. We'll just say yes now.
Yes.
I think we're past the point of, yeah. All right, my friend. I'll put you in the virtual back room and I'll be right back with you. Okay. Bye. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love talking to Kim. She's such an amazing human, and my goodness, has she done wonderful things for this world, for all women, and great start to International Women's Day, week, month, year. Every day is an International Women's Day. So have a great afternoon. Remember to check out our sponsor, brendabadome.com, and my website, glamjewels.com. Thanks so much for being here. Keep on showing the world your sparkle. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, and I can't wait to see you back here next week with another amazing guest. Take care and have a great one.